Hi everyone, I'm Matthew Moniz, and I just want to apologize. I sound a little bit different. I'm getting over a cold, but that's not going to stop me from making videos, especially because I just love talking to you guys about the latest technology. And today it's going to be a review of the Moto G4 Plus. In fact, I already did a hands-on video about a month ago, and right now it's time for my full review. Now I'm going to do this a little bit differently. I'm not going to give you a full-fledged review talking about every single little spec. I'm just going to talk to you about what I liked, what I don't like, and whether or not you should buy this phone. Okay, so let's start off with the things that I liked about this phone, and the first thing is the design. It may be plastic, but it feels nice and light in the hand and takes some design cues from the previous Moto X lineup. The back is made out of this rubber texture that feels great in the hand and prevents the phone from sliding. The famous Motorola dimple is still below the camera that I like resting my index finger on. And they finally added a fingerprint scanner, which is actually faster than the one on the Galaxy S7. Now, because you don't have a physical home button, you don't have to press it down first, and it just takes you directly into your home screen. The 5.5-inch IPS display is 1080p, a first for the Moto G line, and it's actually pretty good. The colors are nice and contrasty, it gets fairly bright, and you still get Moto Display, which shows the time, date, and any notifications if you move or tap on the phone. Now also, because the screen is 1080p, the 3000 mAh battery holds up nicely, allowing me to get through the entire day without any problems. The software experience is great. It's pretty much stock Android with a few Motorola or now Lenovo tweaks that add value to the phone, like chopping twice to turn on the flashlight, twisting your wrist to use the camera, and picking up the phone to mute the ringer. Now, speaking of the camera, it's probably the best feature of this phone. It's a 16 megapixel shooter ranked 84 on DxOMark, next to the iPhone 6s Plus and Nexus 6P. It has phase detection, autofocus, and laser autofocus, which result in super fast autofocus. The pictures are a little heavy on the contrast side, so if you like that vibrant look, you'll definitely get that here. Now, under perfect conditions, the G4 Plus manages to take great photos most of the time. The f2.0 aperture provides great depth of field, so you can really blur the background out if you want to. The software also stays out of the way by not over-processing the image, and low-light photos look pretty good considering the lack of optical image stabilization. Lenovo has also brought manual controls to their mid-range lineup, so you can get really detailed on how you want your photos to look by changing the ISO, shutter speed, or even the white balance. The G4 Plus can't shoot in 4K, but does a fantastic job with 1080p video and does a great job at staying in focus. Alright, so far we have a good design, a good display, great software experience, and a fantastic camera. Now, I'm using the Canadian model. This is coming to Canada with 32 gigabytes of storage and 2 gigabytes of RAM, and it also has a micro SD card slot in case you want to add expandable storage. Now, here are some of the things that I don't like about the G4 Plus. First is the fingerprint scanner. The scanner itself is fantastic. However, I feel they should have had capacitive buttons on the left and right side. The on-screen buttons can then be disabled, freeing up more screen real estate. Now, one of the main questions and concerns I got in the comments of my hands-on video was, does this phone actually overheat? And the short answer is yes. It's using the Snapdragon 617 processor, which is a mid-range smartphone chip, but has been known to have poor thermals. I decided to test it out for myself, and the first thing I did was run a few games, and after 5 to 10 minutes, the top of the phone was reaching temperatures of 40 degrees Celsius. The phone felt hot, but not uncomfortable to hold, and Asphalt, the game I was playing, started to throttle. So my advice is, if you're a gamer, stay away from this phone, but if you just browse the internet, chat, and check email, the performance is fine. The last complaint I have is the lack of NFC. If this was a year ago, I wouldn't say it's a big deal, but now that most of North America is adopting some sort of mobile payment system, it's a must-have feature in my books, especially considering it has a fingerprint scanner. Alright, so here are my closing thoughts, and I'll start off some of the things that I liked about the G4 Plus. I like the display. It's a good 1080p display. Obviously, it's not going to be bright as something like the Samsung Galaxy S7 or even the one on the LG G5, but for a mid-range smartphone, it's a great display. Second is the software experience. It's mostly stock Android, so there's really nothing to complain about, and Motorola has managed to add a few tweaks that don't get in the way of the user experience. And finally, the performance is decent as long as you don't plan on gaming. Which brings me to the things that I don't like. Now, because if you do like to game or if you're running a lot of high intensive applications, the phone will overheat and it will affect performance. I also don't like the fact that it didn't come with NFC. I've adopted mobile payments and I try to use my smartphone to pay for things as much as possible, and I really think NFC is important in 2016. And finally, only having 2 gigabytes of RAM is a major concern. I feel 3 gigabytes is now the minimum for Android Marshmallow or even Android Lollipop. So here's the bottom line. If you're doing basic productivity tasks, chatting with friends, uploading to social media, the phone will run well, and you also get the bonus of having a fantastic camera. But for $400 Canadian, I feel you're better off with something like the Nexus 5X, which will only cost about $20 to $30 more. You're gonna gain better performance, you're gonna get NFC, and you're not gonna have any overheating issues. So that's my review of the Moto G4 Plus. I want to know what you guys think about it in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to smash that like button. If you're new to the channel, subscribe. And as always, I will see you in the next video.